Hello, and welcome to our podcast, to this YouTube video on the process of getting back into a relationship with someone that you love. We wanted to do an entire episode on one of the statements, comments that we hear almost every single day. And that comment is, I always text my ex first. Many of you are in this type of dynamic. And so I wanted to bring into the studio Mr. Coach Alex Como to help really dissect this topic and to help you face this type of dynamic. So Coach Alex, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to address this topic with me.
Thank you so much, Coach Adrian. This is a very important topic because there is a lot of fears behind this question. Alex, what can I do? I always text my ex first. And I can feel the fear usually. And if you watch this video, I want to tell you something that I would tell my client. It is better to text your ex first and get a response than to have no communication, to have nothing, to have someone that would ignore you. So it's not maybe perfect. We can tend to that, and that will be the topic of this video. But it's also a great step. Even if you do the first step, at least you have some response, you have some communication. So let's be positive. That would be the first thing I want to tell in this topic.
Very good, Coach Alex. I'm very happy that you started off saying this. And I also want to commend you for acknowledging the fact that you always text your ex first. The fact that you have this awareness is a big deal because many people are just so blinded by their feelings and emotions that they are not even really paying attention to the dynamic itself. And they're just focused on the fact that they miss their ex, that it's been, X number of days since they haven't spoken to, and that they just need to reach out to them. But obviously, we need to find some level of balance in order to create a new and improved relationship. So, Coach Alex, do you have clients, examples of situations where individuals have told you that they always text their ex first, but then you realize that this is just the tip of the iceberg, that there's many more dynamics at play, and that this statement is also hiding perhaps other things that should be addressed and considered?
Yes, of course, because I've coached that would be maybe one of my favorite stories. I've coached a man, he was French, and I've helped him save his marriage. And that's what makes my purpose, my job as a purpose. It's just amazing when you can save relationship and marriage, especially when there is kids involved. So I coached him and he was telling me, Alex, I text my ex, I text my ex, I text my ex. First of all, when you feel that they are doing always the first step, there is a direct relationship between actions and codependency, right? Because they have the fear to lose their ex, because they have the fear of the lack of communication. And what I hear all the time is, yes, but if I don't do the first step, they will forget about me. And this is what he told me. And I wanted to I asked him a question and I saw his face because we were on Zoom and his face started to be white, very white, because he was surprised by my question, but it gave him this electroshock to understand the situation, So my question was, how can you know if she will do the first step if you don't give her time and space? If you tell me, Alex, I always do the first step and it's once every other week, then I would tell you that, okay, we need to make sure that we can grow the communication. But if you text your ex every single day, like it was his case, you never know if she will start to miss you. You will never know if she will come to you. And what I told him, and it's something that I want you to really jot on a paper on your phone, it's that our human brain works by habit. So if you always do the first step, you don't make your ex think about doing it. And so that is the reason why we are stuck sometimes. It's not because your ex doesn't love you. It's not because we will not be able to get them back. It's because we forced a little bit of this situation. So when we talk about things to address, besides the idea that we text first, it's usually the codependency. and the lack of knowledge about neuroscience, human being, human behaviors, love behaviors. Did I understand your question correctly?
Exactly. That's exactly where I was hoping you would go with it. Because a lot of times when you're texting your ex first, it's because you're very anxious and you're not giving them time and space to miss you and to reach out to you first, which is exactly where you went with this story with this client. It's also sometimes important to acknowledge the fact that it's not just about texting first. It's about seeing progress. So if it's platonic text message, hey, how are you? Good night. How was work? And it's just flat. And it's always these types of communication. It's not positive. You're not actually progressing here. So yes, you're still in contact, but a lot of times it's contact for the sake of contact. And you can, by focusing on what you can control, you can also perhaps escalate the texting to, making sure that you're setting yourself up for an in-person, a date, an in-person activity that will enable you to get closer to your significant other in a way that will shift the communication dynamics afterwards. So it's important for you to really maximize the opportunities that you do have, and perhaps that you think in terms of quality of interaction versus the quantity of interactions as well.
Yeah, I love this idea because we tend to text our ex to be reassured that they think about us and they love us and they want to be with us, or at least that there is a link. But quality is way better than quantity because we can use the idea that they will miss you. We can use the surprise. We can create more emotions. It's like if you have your favorite meal, right? If I give you your favorite meal every single day, I'm not sure that after 1 month, it would still be your favorite meal. And when I use this example, usually people start to understand that it's not quantity, it is quality. So it's okay to text your ex first when you have a strategy behind it, when you take your time, when you're playing kind of the push and pull technique where I specialize. But if you tell me like, Alex, I need to text my ex every single day because if not, I don't feel good, it will be very difficult to reverse the situation at the end when it will be to conquer your ex. Maybe you will be friend, but that's not the friend zone that you want. So make sure that you feel good. Make sure that you're happy with your situation. Make sure that you see the positive side. But let's do something that could be different, that can start some more attraction process where your ex will be surprised and give you attention about your personal actions, your personal goals, your personal life, and your personal dreams.
Sometimes it's something different can be a different type of text message. Can be perhaps sending a picture, a story, an article, something that will stimulate more positive interaction or a different type of interaction. Sometimes it also means perhaps, like we talked about, setting up a face-to-face meeting, a date of some kind, or sending a voice message where they can hear you laugh, where they can hear you, on the go, doing something that is exciting and amazing that can help reframe the way that they see you and the dynamic itself. And you know that men are very visual creatures, and oftentimes, if you look good, if you feel good, being able to create a situation in which your ex can see the change is also a way to perhaps change the dynamics of communication and how things have been evolving in your specific situation. I wanted to give you also a private coaching anecdote of a client who found himself always texting his ex first. And in essence, he was playing defense. He was afraid. He was in a long distance dynamic. He was moving to her city, and he was texting just to feel like they were staying connected. And I really encouraged him, because he was moving to our city, to perhaps consider taking a step back and going a relatively longer period of time without reaching out, and also changing his activity on social media because they were also connected on social, to show that in essence he was living his best life, that he was busy, that he was not necessarily checking up on her as if they were still together, because they were not together. They were in the process of getting back together, but they were not together. And just that slight shift helped this woman understand what was at stake, and the fact that this was not a done deal, that this was not guaranteed that he would move to the city and start pursuing her. And so she started seeking reassurance and validation, and it enabled her to start to reach out again. Another client that I coached recently, he was in France also, and he was in a dynamic where he would reach out, and when he reached out, his ex was very positive and very talkative, but she would not reach out first.
Yeah.
And he was unsure of whether he was doing too much, actually. And they had a common hobby and a common passion, which was flying planes. And I think that's where they met. Their hobby was to fly planes. And he ended up inviting her to go on this outing together, on flying a plane together. And actually, I encouraged him to go to a specific restaurant, taking this journey, this flight, this adventure together, to go to a specific restaurant in another city. And it was very romantic. And that, with a little bit of push and pull, enabled to completely change the narrative, I was going to say, but the dynamic. And after that, this lady was a lot more forthcoming, reaching out a lot more, and it did accelerate their process of getting back together. And so I felt compelled to share that story here with you.
And I love what you mentioned, Coach Adrian, because when I listen to you, to your stories, to your advice, I can tell that when you pinpoint one little thing, guys, it can change the overall dynamic. We are facing a mountain. I understand. You are facing a wall. You don't see the solution. But the moment you start to do the right actions, everything becomes clear. Sometimes this action is not what you want to do. Sometimes you ask you to just manage your emotions. But when I listen to your story, we only need one moment to make your ex start texting you, calling you, making the first steps, telling you how much you have changed. The only problem that I see with the people I coach is that you're waiting for that. So you start to be a little bit anxious and you're not enough patient, right? So how can you tell people to be a little bit patient and trust the process, Coach Adrian?
Oftentimes, what you're saying reminds me of the fact that oftentimes the right action is what you don't want to do. So I'd ask clients sometimes in coaching sessions, so what do you think would be the appropriate next step? And when they say something, I say, well, you actually have to do the opposite, just to prove a point to them, just to show them that sometimes you have to resist your natural urge and inclination to want to lean in, when sometimes leaning out gives your ex the space to actually take that next step towards you. I often remind individuals, to answer your question, about the length of time that you were connected to your ex. Because oftentimes individuals that reach out have been together for many years. And you've been together for 6 years or 5 years or 3 years. You're going through a breakup and you're 10 weeks in and you start to panic. And it's important to remind yourself of your quality traits and attributes, what you bring to the table. The relationship is not only defined by how things ended and the mistakes that you made. And it's important to value yourself and what you bring to the table in order for your ex to also value you and to see you in a new light. If you don't believe in yourself and in what you bring to the table, how can you expect your ex to believe in you? Mm-hmm. And so, very important to have that perspective, to have that level of self-assurance and confidence. And you have to be intentional, reminding yourself of your quality traits and attributes, reminding yourself of your projects, of your aspirations, of the things that you want to accomplish, regardless of whether this person, comes back into your life or not. That gives you balance and perspective, and it helps to not feel like every day is excruciating. I also encourage people to celebrate small victories. Mm-hmm. Focus on what you can control, celebrate small victories. That enables you to get into a way more positive dynamic. And in essence, time starts to pass without you waiting on something because you're active, you're dynamic, you're intentional, you're setting goals, you're celebrating those goals, centered around things that are actually within your control. And you start to develop those habits and that detachment that will naturally and organically make them want to share in those successes and those new experiences. And that really does help a lot of individuals during this process of breakup recovery, because sometimes it's necessary to take a step back in order to take a leap forward.
And if you do that, guys, you will see that your self-confidence will grow and you will have results. And by results, I mean your ex will text you, call you, ask you out, ask you question, test you. Yes, your ex will test you as well. Maybe that will be the next topic for the videos and the podcast. But you need to remember that when you do the right actions, you always get results, and the results could be unexpected. So be ready for it. Okay. And the best way to be ready is to grab your gift in the description, because we talk about how to make your ex come to you, how to make your ex regret losing you, how to make your ex do the first step. Everything is ready in the description for you to get it so you can enjoy. Of course, come on with myexagain.com, because we have tons of articles and you can book a private coaching session. I would love to be your coach. I would love to be here to assist you. There is Coach Danny, Coach Abby, Coach Priyanka, of course, Coach Adrian here as well. And we want to be here to assist you. We want to be here to tell you that it is possible and to give you the action plan.
I wanted to end this with a little bonus of some kind. Mm-hmm. We're just going back to this topic of why your ex is not texting first. Oftentimes, it's important to note that just because they're not texting first does not mean that they're not interested. That doesn't mean that they're not thinking about you. It does not mean that you're not moving closer towards your goal. Some of it is sometimes cultural or societal. I've seen many clients who thought that because they are a woman, they shouldn't be texting first, that they're expecting the guy to do the first step, when in reality, it's total BS. There are certain situations where as a woman, you can take the first step in order to encourage him to take a greater step towards you. So that's one thing. The second is that some people feel like it is inappropriate to text an ex. They just, even though they have that urge, they have regret, they have remorse, they're thinking about you, they don't know if it's appropriate, because perhaps they feel like, their ego won't let them, or they just are embarrassed to, come back after they pulled away. And so I don't want you to think that just because they're not texting first does not necessarily mean that it's impossible or that they're not interested. And that's why we did this entire podcast episode, to help you find that little step that will enable the dynamic to continue to evolve in a positive way. And I hope that this was beneficial. And like Coach Alex said, if you wanted to take it further, please take advantage of the bonus content. What we refer to as your free gift is in reality a series of videos, information that goes much deeper and that will enable you to raise that emotional IQ and to help you figure out exactly what the next best step is for your exact situation.
Thank you, Coach Adrian, for this also bonus content. Because yes, guys, maybe your ex is waiting for you. Maybe they don't want to disturb you. Maybe their ego and their pride are very high as well. That's why you should not think that it is over. It's not because your ex didn't reach out to, especially during no contact, for example. Some people can say, hey, why? Because there is a lot of time to process emotions. So don't be scared before to make sure that you have changed and you can process the emotions a different way. We will see you very soon for new episodes.
As always,
guys.
I am happy because we are fighting the good fight together. So please continue to do so. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your trust. And see you very soon.
See you soon, guys.